Hello, crafty friends. This is the Paper Chef here. Welcome to part 2 of my Rustic Harvest Workshop series. The Rustic Harvest Suite by Stampin' Up! Is in our holiday catalog, which is our July to December mini catalog. And I just want to share the products that are included in this suite and then show you which ones we'll be using today. So in part 1, we did do an introduction to this whole suite, where you got to see it a little bit better, where I opened up all the paper. But today we're going to be using some of this Rustic Harvest Designer Series paper, which I think is the best part, right? It's just so incredible. Then we have this Embossing Additions Toolkit, which I used last week. We'll be using it again. It has these nice tools like the tray, the embossing buddy. This is the embossing buddy. Usually keep that in a bag. Then we have black cardstock. We have these leaf label and amber gem combo pack. I don't think I have any more gems. I think I ran out of the gems. But you get these really cool leaves in there. Okay, and then you have Hello Harvest, which is we'll be using this today. Cling stamp set. Nice etched rubber. And finally, in this suite, we have the dies. And the ones we'll be using, I need to put these on a magnetic sheet or this paper's going to rip. But the ones we'll be using are these ones here. As we create, I'm going to show you what we're creating now, the textured pumpkin card. So let me move some stuff aside. This is what we'll be creating today. I usually show you that first, but I just wanted to make sure I showed you the suite. Now, the way we're going to add the texture to the pumpkin is, hey, there's a trick. The dies are already textured. So let me show you that next. And then we'll also be adding texture by adding some extra little swirly things. Let me go ahead and get rid of this. If you want to order any of these items, please be sure to use the link in the description of this video. If you're in the U.S., I'm a U.S. Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I would really help support my channel and my small business. Thank you very much. All right, let's show you this. Okay, can you see that there's little texture in there? We didn't do that. We didn't have to do that, but I'm going to show you how to bring out the texture. I have a trick for you to bring out the texture. A trick I've been using for years. We're going to be, I'm going to bring this up closer. Okay, so we're going to be layering up the pumpkins. So these are the dies we'll be using so you can get out these dies. You're going to need your pumpkin die, this piece and this piece. And you're going to need these little swirly whirly thingies. And as some pointed out, my viewers were pointing out that they're little tendrils for the pumpkins. But yes, that's awesome. And I'm going to use them as tendrils for the pumpkins. But we also just use them to decorate our card, which is nice. And you may be noticing this piece of gold. It's from the Texture Chic Suite, the one that we just finished up the workshop series for. This is called Distressed Gold paper, or Distressed Gold specialty paper. So we'll be using a lot of that to add some gold accents to our things. And then I think what I might do for this one, I might do some embossing, embossing with the copper for the sentiment, even though I just stamped it for this. But we're going to use this punch here to punch out the sentiment, because the only die that came, let me see if I can find that. There's one die that came, and it's a banner, but it doesn't really hold everything really nicely. Like this banner, it would have held this, but we would have been missing the little black lines from the stamp. So I think I could have masked this off, and we could have done the blessing inside here, probably masked it off, but that was a little work, so I just thought, let me just use a punch. Plus, I wanted to have enough room up there to really highlight the background. So one of the techniques you're going to learn in this tutorial is how to create this blended background. And in creating the blended background, I didn't want to block it off. So if you do a lot of really cool techniques, you don't want to take your different things and just start covering them up. So for instance, this banner, that just would have covered up a lot more of my background, but it's still cool. So we're using the handmade tag punch. That's this punch here. And it's part of the Handmade Wishes bundle. So that's in the catalog. And maybe some other things. We'll see what else we use. Well, of course, we're going to use the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine as well. So let's see. We're going to I think it'd be fun to just start blending. That's a fun way to get into this tutorial. So get out your Rustic Harvest paper, and we're going to transform it. You can see how it looks here. We're going to transform the paper. You're going to do your typical card base size, which is 5 1/4 by 4. I mean, not card base, card letter size. I've already cut the card bases. So we want Actually, when you're doing the 5 1/4, I like to turn my trimmer around so you can see the numbers better up here. So we want to do 5 1/4 by 4. So 5 1/4. And I'm just going to go ahead, since the paper's 12 by 12, and I'm just going to go to make 3, since it's 12 inches long, I'm just going to go and make 3 of these. Then we'll just blend them up. We'll have them done. See how I work. Okay, so here we go. 3 of those. Rustic Harvest paper. Designer Series paper. Now that's the only time I need to cut any paper. I've already cut this, so you want to cut yourself. You're also going to need a piece of this. Well, actually, I'll just cut it for you. So I need a couple extra pieces because we're going to be embossing. So you're going to take this piece here. This is the back of it. I'm going to take the crushed curry piece. Just make sure, I don't know which side. Let me just trim it to get it straight on one side. Okay, there. Just to make sure it's straight. So we want is like 1-inch strips of this. This is for our embossing and for our stamping, our sentiments. I'm just going to go ahead and cut a couple strips so I have it. So I don't need to use my trimmer. And I've already made the card bases. And we've talked about making card bases on this channel before. So you need any of the coordinating colors. And you're going to make them vertical. Okay, so I gave you the measurements for those last time. But, right? You can use pumpkin pie. You can use, well, you could use it. You could do it this way. And it could open this way too. But I'd prefer the top, that it opens from the top. So you want to just get coordinating colors from the sweet Mossy Meadow, crushed curry, Cajun craze, pumpkin pie. Just get some coordinating colors and make your card bases. So when I say card base, I'm referring to this card stock. That's the card base. When I talk about this layers and making a card, which I do a lot on this channel and in my handouts, you have these, and then you have this would be a card layer. So you always need, when you're making cards, you always need a layer of some kind of Designer Series paper when you're making cards. So that's what we're doing now, is I'm going to show you how to blend the layer. So let's make a little bit of room, and we'll take out the blending brushes. So for this, just lay these out, and you just want to take out, you find my tray of crafty goodness here with all my ink on it. All right, so here we go. I'm going to use 4 colors for this. We're going to use crushed curry, Cajun craze, Mossy Meadow, and pumpkin pie for our blended backgrounds. So those are 4 colors because it coordinates with the Rustic Harvest Suite. So I usually start with the darker colors, and I usually get a stamping block and put some ink onto the stamping block before I put it onto my blending brush. So you take your stamping block and you just dip it into the ink like that, and it helps you control how much ink gets on your blending brush. I'm going to move these over to the side a little bit and place that there. And we're going to go ahead and tap the Cajun craze. I'm just tapping it off onto the mat a little bit because it's pretty dark. Okay, and that gets the initial blob off. And I'm just going to sort of go in a circular motion. See how I was cautious with the first little circle? I'm kind of cautious because I don't know how dark it's going to be. And I'm just going to blend some. Okay, I did it in different places than the other, so I'm just kind of doing it in different ways. We'll do Cajun craze down here, and then next one I'll probably do in quadrants, like I did for the other card, something like that. All right, so that's good. So you're completely transforming your paper. Leave that one, and oh no, we'll just go ahead and do all the Cajun craze. That's what we'll do. We'll do all the Cajun craze first. Tap, tap, tap. This time I'm going to do it up in the corner. I need a little bit more ink each time. Okay. Circular motions. Now you can actually use this. We sell the blending brushes in packs of 3. I just dedicate one to each color. Like this will be my reds. I have some for greens, etc. But you can go ahead and get yourself, just one set of blending brushes and wash them when you don't need them. So it's no big deal. Okay, we'll put that over there. We'll do another one. Do it down here. Or you can get yourself a few packs of blending brushes and then have more blending brushes dedicated to more colors. So I might use this one for, Cajun Craze, Merry Merlot, Real Red, Poppy Parade. I just use it like on all my reds because when you're done using it, you just rub it off and you get the ink off. So it's no big deal. But that's why I have a few sets of blending brushes, but I don't have like one for just Cajun Craze, nothing like that. That would be like overkill. Although I like to be over the top sometimes. So that's what you want. So you want some of it on each and just put it in different places. It don't really matter where you put it because I'm just using 4 colors for these papers. Okay, so we're done with the Cajun Craze. Let's move on to another dark color. We'll go ahead and do the Mossy Meadow next. Move that blending brush over and we'll take the Mossy Meadow. We'll flip that open. And I'm just going to grab a baby wipe just to get this off my stamping block. Okay, and we're going to dip. Now we got some Mossy Meadow on our brush. On our block. Tap, tap, tap. Right? Get that blob off, and now let's see where we go. We'll do some over here. Circular motion, cautious the first time, so it doesn't make a big blob on your paper. Ooh la la. And if you want these 2 colors to blend together, just overlap them. But my purpose is to color these with fall colors. Okay, so let's put this over here. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Okay, see how it's going faster. And now we'll do this one sort of right up here. I love using blending brushes. All right, we're done with the Mossy Meadow. And we will move on to the next color, which is Pumpkin Pie. I see a lot of you coming in. I see some of my team. I see some of my customers and some of my crafty friends from around the world. So thank you for coming in and saying hello. I'm going to just put some pumpkin pie on this brush. On the block. We'll grab my pumpkin pie. Let's see which one I was using for crushed curry. This one I must have been using for pumpkin pie. Yeah. These are both orange because I mixed them up, but it's okay. So we'll just use, what did I say? This is going to be my crushed curry one. It looks a little orange, but that's okay because I mixed them up, but you should rub it off. I'm going to do pumpkin pie next. Let's do that over that side. I love that color. So you want to use colors that coordinate. So this is Cajun Craze on that side with the Designer Series paper. So when you make your cards, you know that it's all going to coordinate. So far, so good. Put that over there for a moment. Pumpkin pie. Should we put the pumpkin pie over here? This one don't really have a big blob problem. Okay, good, good, good. Just trying to put something somewhere, and we'll do this one. I'm just going to use all the rest of this ink from the blob, or the block. Okay, so far so good. Now we're going to take this one and wipe that off a little bit, and we're going to move on to crushed curry. And then we have 3 backgrounds done. Put that one right there. Okay. Crushed curry. Dip, dip, dip. Tap a little bit. And our background is done. So that's how to make a blended background. And it has quadrants, so we'll put that over there. I'm just finishing it all up. Gonna need some more ink here. Dip, dip. Dip, dip, tap, tap. And I think I'm good. Okay, now I should have already cut these. I think I already cut these. So we're going to go ahead and do what I like to do when I put this distressed gold cardstock in the middle. That's what we're doing. We have a little, they're cut in 1-inch strips, just like I said to cut. I was saying to cut this in 1-inch strips. Also, you want to cut the distressed gold in 1-inch strips. So what I like to do is just put it across the middle of the card for a layer. And then I can use the inside of this little tray to help line it up. So I'll show you what I mean. Put that over here. Move this over here. That's if you're using like glue or something or even rolling adhesive. So we can use the Seal Plus. Grab that. Okay, I'm looking. It was just right here. Here it is. Okay, so we're going to take. So say I want to put this little gold piece across the middle. Don't tell me we're running out. I need you to not run out. Let's see. There we go. So say we want to put this little piece here, right? Put some Seal Plus on there, and then I can put this right there and use the side of my tray, or you can use the side of your trimmer. It just helps you line it up. Of course, you can just cut it 4 inches, which is fine. But I find I tend to, when I'm just making a little strip, it's sometimes easier than to just turn it over and trim it off, and you get it exactly right. For some reason, even if I cut it 4 inches, it doesn't seem to like be exactly 4 inches. Like, and then there's a little piece sticking out. But when you do it that way, you make sure you're really covering the whole card. So let's do that again. We need a little piece here. Oh, that one's already should be 4. Nope, it's a little bit. See, this was like 8 inches, and it's a little bit bigger. These get a little raggedy because there's some fiber in this paper. Okay, we're going to put this little strip of adhesive there. Something's happening with my Seal Plus today. There we go. I'm going to put that right there. And then we're going to turn it over. Trim off the edge. Okay, let's see if I have any more gold I can find here. Okay, I found this little piece. So we'll just go ahead and, I just like to make 3 in case then we'll just have 3 cards, but it'd be good to have 3 cards. So no big deal. Always good to have extra cards. Okay. Let's see. This one here. And a little bit of Seal Plus. Okay, let me flip that around because it seems it's rolling back up on itself sometimes. And we'll put this little piece here. So we're going to put that there, and then we can turn it over. So now we have our 3 cards. We have our little, this is also called layering when we put these extra pieces. These is still layering. So we have done our card base already. I've done the card bases earlier, and then we've layered up our cards. So now we're ready to do our die cutting and our pumpkin. So do everything in stages. That's how you get a lot done. You get a lot of cards done by doing it in stages. Okay, we're done with all this. We're going to need this one. Because we're texturing our pumpkin. I was saying that was the caging. We're trying to find the one that was the pumpkin pie. Okay, let's see. Nope, that was crushed cherry. This was pumpkin pie. So we're going to leave that. We need that. We're going to still use the pumpkin pie ink. Right, and we need the Versamark ink. So the Versamark is our trick for getting our little texture onto our pumpkins. We need pumpkin pie cardstock, because that's what we used here, pumpkin pie cardstock. And we need those dies. So let's get the machine closer. And we need our tweezers. We're gonna still heat it up, but it's not going to necessarily be called heat embossing. although these are embossed a little bit. Unless we were to use clear embossing powder, which we use next time. But let me just show you what I mean. So let me grab some pumpkin pie. Now I'm going to grab some from, I recently had a fall projects course with my ScanNCut. I made lots of little turkey boxes, and I have lots of little leftover pieces of pumpkin pie. So I'm going to pull this, and I did something with an SVG cutting file. So I have a little piece here we can use. So what you're going to do for your pumpkins is you're just going to get, we're going to do ours. So I took out the die cutter. Let me raise this up. The Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, I'm going to raise up my camera a little bit so you can see that the sandwich is going to be the die cutting sandwich that is, right? So we're going to do plate number 1, right? Plate number 2, which is your thin die adapter. Plate number 3 for cutting your dies. And then we're going to do another plate number 3. So then we're going to put down the piece of cardstock, which I'm just going to rip because we just need the piece like that. Put that on your die cutting. Oops, I need that piece. Not that one. Okay, we're going to put that on your plate. Now you need another plate number 3 for the top. Let me grab that. Okay, to roll through the top. So let's now put the pumpkin. So what we want to do, the trick for this one is we're going to use Versamark ink on the die before you run it through. So Versamark ink is what we used last week for our heat embossing techniques. Well, here, this one. We'll use it again because we can heat emboss our sentiment. But it gives you, it's like invisible ink. So it gives you that clear, it gives you clear ink. I mean, it's like a clear, invisible ink. So you can put powder on it, but for this case, I didn't need to put powder. So I'm just going to put the dye through here. And I've done this before just to get some little bit of color into the paper. And also when you're embossing, because this is an embossing die. So it already has some like embossing little segments on it. So when you put that on there, when you put this on there first, and you can also do things like glitter or wet it or clear it, embossing it. So it gives it that extra little texture when it goes through. You're going to see what I mean when I pull these out of the machine. And then I'm going to show you how to further add texture to them. And then we'll build our pumpkins. So we're going to do a few of these. But look how much nicer that came out than just... See? It just came out really nice. Now, it's still kind of wet, though. And that's why I do use the heat tool just to dry it. Now, I didn't use embossing powder on it. The heat embossing powder. I'm just trying to dry it off. Heat it up, like set it in there. Kathy's saying she never tried that before, and she's like a super, super crafter, so I'm glad you learned something new. So this is now something that we're going to color a little bit around the edges, but now it's like heat set. Now, if I don't do that, then what happens is this ink stays wet. The ink from we're going to go ahead and run this through a couple more times. We need a bunch of these to make our pumpkins out of. But if we don't do this, then the heat stays wet. The ink stays wet. And then when I start to put, let me see which one. I don't remember which one yeah, see, I could tell that's wet. I'm just going to heat set it real quick because then I can use the ink on it, and the ink won't get my blending brush all gooey when I start using ink on this to try to clear it up. So I'm using the nice tweezers from that set that we went over last week. These are really fun tweezers. They're metal. They got this little plastic part. I love these. I love the Stampin' Editions toolkit. So what I'm doing over here is just dipping. I'm dipping my pumpkins before I emboss them. Just like I did before. So I'm just dipping them in Versamark. And I'm cranking them through. So to make one of these pumpkins, you need one small piece and 2 large pieces. But if you have 3 large pieces, that's fine too. But just 2 large pieces will do because you can cut it in half. So you need 2 of these big ones and 1 of the small ones. Doesn't take long to dry it because we're not worried about, there's no powder on there. There's no embossing powder. We'll dry that one in a moment. Let's see if we can't run a couple more through just to have enough that we need here. Put this piece there. Okay. One more time. I'm going to dip. Dip. Okay. Close. I'm done with this for now, for the Versamark. Close that for a moment. And at the same time, while I'm running it through, because we're not going to waste a good crank here, we're going to use a little piece of gold. And we're going to run through the little swirly swirls, just to have a few extras of those. So you want to use your adhesive sheets. These are the adhesive sheets. We sell these in pack of 10, 12 by 6. I've already added adhesive sheet to this piece of distressed gold cardstock. And I'm just going to go ahead when I'm cranking this through and go ahead and crank through a couple of these just to make a few little stickers for our little swirls. So just go ahead and make a few little stickers. Put them right like that. And they just help for embellishing our cards. Now we're going to crank that through. And then the only other paper I'm going to use for a few swirls is going to be the Mossy Meadow paper from the Rustic Harvest. So I think we have more than enough pumpkins. We'll heat set these. And we're going to put that over there. Okay, these you want to wash off because you have the Versamark on them and they're very sticky. So you want to wash those off. I'm going to put those off to the side. We're done with our pumpkin pie. I'm going to grab this little piece here because we need this. We need a piece of this piece, the Rustic, or Mossy Meadow from the Rustic Harvest. And you want to go put some swirls through it. So you want to put that on there. Here are my swirls. Okay, these ones are stickers. The gold ones are stickers, and the rest, these other ones are going to just be not stickers because they're just, we're going to use glue on these ones because they kind of don't have to be stickers. They can just sort of touch the pumpkin, and you can have them kind of hanging off the pumpkin. So we're going to make 3 of these. And we're going to make one of the little pumpkin tops. So that's one of the dies that I said you would need. Let's see if I put it back in here. Okay, looking for the... Let's see. Oh, where is my pumpkin top? I'm looking in my magnetic bowl, which I'm supposed to put things in my magnetic bowl. Well, let's check our bucket of crafty goodness and see if perhaps, here, I have one. So there's a die that looks like that, and you're going to cut some of those in the Mossy Meadow color and then some in the color of, like, say, crumb cake. Because my husband said, and he's right, that the top of the pumpkin should be brown. So I did some in crumb cake. But we'll find that die later. But this will at least get us through the tutorial. We have one of these. We have enough. So we're going to cut some tendrils, and then you're all done die cutting. And all we need to do is heat set the other pumpkins. Then we're going to start layering and put the card together. And we're going to do some more embossing. But we don't need to do any more of the die cutting because we're going to use a punch for the next part. All right, so there's the little tendrils for our pumpkin. And now I can lower this back down so you can get a better view of what we're doing. All right, so we have these metal pieces. You're going to just pop them out. See, sometimes they just fall out. The sticker ones don't fall out as easy. There's 1, 2. See if we can get that one to fall out. See? Falls out. There we go. So we need all these little pieces. We need all these little pieces. And now we're going to just heat set these last 3. It's never too late to heat set because they stay sticky if you don't heat set them. Okay. Oops, everything's blowing all over the place. Better turn that off here. There we go. Our cardstock is pretty good, so it doesn't like warp when you... All right, I'm just trying to get the tweezers on there. There we go. It's hard to put tweezers onto the paper with one hand. Heat set that other part a little bit. All right, good. So we're done with the heat setting for now. We might do some embossing with the sentiment a little bit later, but we're going to now layer the pumpkins. So I've worked with other cardstock, and it tends to get all melted and or warped when you start heating it up and stuff like that. Or, you know, people talk about, oh, wait, you know, watch so the paper doesn't burn and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, I don't really have that problem with the Stampin' Up! Ones. Okay, so to make one of these pumpkins, let's look at our pumpkin card. Let's go back to our pumpkin card and examine our pumpkin and how I came up with just layering this up. So at first I was thinking that this was a bunch of these. I was like, oh, right? So I tried this thing. I went like, I could make a pumpkin like that. And you could make a pumpkin like that with the 3, but then it would be sort of like a skinny, I don't know, dehydrated pumpkin, right? So you wanted like a cool plump pumpkin. So then I was like, so then I tried this, and I was like, okay, that looks cool. And then I tried putting some of them like this in the back. And that kind of came out funny. See? That kind of came out funny. I put like 1 big one, 2 small ones, and I went like that. I'm like, well, now I got a weird looking pumpkin. So that didn't work. So then I came up with this. Then I started experimenting, and I was like, ooh, la la. Put 2 of these in the back. Right? So then I came up with, okay, now I got a better pumpkin. Right? But then I came up with, well, I don't really need 2 in the back. See? I can just cut one of these. And voila. I have 1 big one, 1 small, 1 of those round ones, and 2 small ones. So that's what I ended up coming up with. And it came out the way I wanted it. So that's how we're making our pumpkin. You just cut one of those big pieces in 2, and you come up with a pumpkin like this. And then to layer it up, you're going to use dimensionals. But we still got to color them. I was just trying to show you my big overall concept before. So to texture your pumpkin even more, you're going to take your blending brushes and color them before we layer them. So open up your pumpkin pie. And when I say color them, I'm just doing tone on tone. That means you're taking your ink, right, and your pumpkin pie ink, and you're just coloring around the edges. So that's called tone on tone. Well, we just go right into there. Okay. It just adds more texture and dimension to your pumpkins. Around the edges. And we'll do it to these little side pieces. Where's the other piece? This is the other piece. We'll do this one first. So leave your ink open because we're going to need it. And now we can take, okay, so now we can put our pumpkins. We can put our dimensionals. These are Stampin' dimensionals. So now we have texture and dimension. Put that one there. So you want the bottom part sticking out a little bit because we need room for our the top of our pumpkin. This little piece. So you're going to push that down so that the bottom sticks out a little bit. Now you're going to take your the top of the pumpkin, and you're going to put it back there, right? And what I did to my top of my pumpkin, the one I had for this Mossy Meadow, you can use a blending brush, or I'm just going to dip in with my finger. Sometimes it's just easier with my finger than getting out the brush. And see, I just added more ink to the top of that to make it a little bit darker, so to make the white lines disappear. And then I have the glue. I'm putting glue on the front because it's attached to this part of the pumpkin. Get in there. So don't put a dimensional right on that section. So you already have a cute pumpkin, and you could do lots with this. If you don't mind a skinny pumpkin, it's already cute just doing that. But you need a little plump pumpkin. So let's put some more dimensionals. Put some, go like that. You can use dimensionals behind the whole thing or just kind of like right behind there if you want. So what I did is I did something like this to make it more like puffed up. I put them over here on the edges, and then I let the little pieces stick out. So flip that over and just kind of, right, attach your pumpkin piece on the side, attach your pumpkin piece on the side. Tilt it a little bit, and you have a beautiful, layered, textured pumpkin. Super cool. So that's how I came up with that. I mean, I was just, any pictures I saw, the pumpkins were like too skinny, and I wanted it to be like wider. So then you could put, so that's covered, those dimensionals are covered up, and then you could just put a couple dimensionals there to get it to stick onto your card. And then also, since that's just going to be the height of the sides, you also want to put maybe some of this little bit. So a little bit of this, because these are the same height as those on the side. Then you want this sides to stay too. So let's go ahead and put it on our card. Okay, let's put the card, well, actually we should put this on our card first. So I'm just going to grab a card base. We'll grab a crushed curry card base and attach a piece of this to it, our layer. Then we can attach our pumpkin, because it's hard to attach the pumpkin. I mean, it's hard to do the seal when you got a pumpkin underneath it. Always make sure it opens the right way. Now notice I put the pumpkin pie up at the top. So because the pumpkin pie color, see? Pumpkin pie color is up there because the pumpkin's going to be down there. I already pulled those off. Pumpkin is going to go right there. That way you're not putting the pumpkin pie color behind the pumpkin for contrast. You're putting Mossy Meadow and Cajun Craze behind the pumpkin. And now you have a 3D pumpkin. Now right behind here I put a little mini dimensional. Or two, just to kind of, if you want. Actually, I kind of like it sticking up. I'm going to leave it sticking up. But if you want, if it's not too high up, you can put, see, it's pretty high up. It's okay. You can put a little mini dimensional behind it. All right. Let's do another pumpkin. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach this to the card base while I'm here. I'm grabbing a Mossy Meadow card base. And I'm going to attach another piece of the ones we made. So we'll go ahead and do this one. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to do this one here. Onto the Mossy Meadow card base. Looks like it's done. All right, rather than refill that, because we're crafters, the show must go on. We're just using glue. Running out of. Okay, pumpkin pie should go up at the top because my pumpkin is going to go at the bottom. So I'm putting the pumpkin pie up at the top. This time I'm going to puff up maybe just the middle of the pumpkin so it's not as tall. So we're going to go like this. We're going to get some ink. I think I've already done that one. I think I've already colored that one. That one looks pretty dark. Oh, I only need one middle piece. So we're going to get this piece here. Okay. Okay, that one's cool. And we'll get this piece here. We're going to go ahead and cut it. This is the piece we're cutting for the sides. And we're going to put a little bit of ink on it. And then we'll be ready for our sentiments. So I have 2 cards made, but then I'll have a third card partially made. So let's take this. And instead of, so I'm gonna make this not as puffy. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it like that. So it's still a layered pumpkin, but instead of putting it up with dimensionals, I'm just layering it with glue. Okay. It's still layered, it's still textured. But this part I'm going to puff up, but not as high. Now the regular dimensionals, these ones are taller than these mini dimensionals. So I'm just going to use mini dimensionals, so this isn't as tall. So it's good to have both dimensionals. You have more versatility when you're crafting. And you can see they don't stick as well. They don't. I think the big ones stick a little better. But that's why we use a few of them. Okay, took them all off. Plop it on there. And we still have a cute little layered pumpkin. And we need the middle part of the pumpkin. And I know that the die is just going to show up. Here it is. Oh, no, that's not it. I'm just going to look under here. I thought I had it for like my... There it is. See? I found it. Well, good. Now we can cut one. And crumb cake. All right, so let's keep that. I'm going to close that. I'm going to bring back... Let's see, what color wood could we use for the stump? To maybe like a little bit of Cajun craze. So what I'm going to do is just... You don't need to see this part. I'm just going to cut one of these real quick so we can finish this pumpkin off. I'm going to take it, I'm going to use a piece of crumb cake cardstock. So just cut a little piece off. And I'm going to stick that on there and cut the little top of the pumpkin. And then I'm going to use a little bit of Cajun craze just to give it a little bit of texture. Boy, that thing does not like me. So when you have something slipping all over the place, then what you do is a little bit of tape. So sometimes when your die slips around, you can just tape it. Right? Like that with a little piece of tape. I'm just going to try that again because part of my little stump got cut off there. And I'm using, by the way, that's this wall-safe Scotch tape. I love it for die cutting. I think I found it in Hobby Lobby. All right, so, but I'll link to it too because we also found it on Amazon. So there you go. So what I was trying to do is just cut a little... So it has texture to it. Isn't that cool? But what I like to do is add a little bit of color. I'm just going to use my blending brush here. And put a little bit of ink on it. Okay. And just put a little bit of color on it. There we go. That'll work. Not too much color. Because I still want it to be brown. But I wanted to bring out those little texture lines. I could have used crumb cake. Like tone on tone as well. Oh, what happened to my pumpkin? It got all wet. I don't know how it got wet. Interesting. But it's okay. We must move on. Let's put this, it'll dry. Put some, I think it's from like the baby wipe I just had out or something. I don't know. So put that under there. Or you can actually put it like way behind. But we're going to put little tendrils on it too. So there's your little stump. And then put this on the card. Hope nothing else is wet. I'm just feel around. We're going to attach the pumpkin to the card and we're going to do the sentiment. And if it doesn't dry, I put a lot of extra tendrils on it. That's all. So there's our pumpkin attached, and we have our other pumpkin attached. I move it. I think I move it down a little bit before the glue dries. Okay, so now we need our sentiment, and we're going to take our little embossing tray. I'm thinking I think I'm just going to use copper embossing powder because some of you may have missed part 1, and embossing is just so fun and cool to watch. That we'll just do some embossing. So what we're going to do, we're going to still use, instead of Cajun Craze, which I used earlier for my sample card, I'm just going to go ahead and heat emboss the sentiment. So we're going to take out the copper embossing powder. This is called copper embossing powder. It's a 1/2 ounce jar, and it's part of Metallics embossing powder collection. And so what you want to do is you want to take this little piece of 1-inch strips I told you about earlier, right? You're going to take your 1-inch strip, and you're going to use your embossing buddy to just tap onto there so it keeps the embossing powder in all the right places and not the wrong places. And now we're going to stamp. We're going to use Versamark. Open up your Versamark, and you're going to stamp your sentiment, the one that says, "You are such a blessing." I just grabbed the stamping block D. We'll grab the sentiment, "You are such a blessing," it's a cling stamp. We're going to put it face up, stick the stamping block to it, and go ahead and tap, tap, tap into the Versamark. It's your invisible ink, and you're going to then put this on there. Okay? Now, you can't see the sentiment because we just stamped it in invisible ink. So we now need to put the embossing powder on it to be able to see it. So we're going to take, I have a little spoon. I'm just going to take a little spoon and dump it on there. Okay, and because it was invisible, it's a little bit crooked, so I'm going to grab the piece again. I'm just grabbing. Okay, not that we can't use that one, but it's better to I'm going to just try again. Okay, we'll see if this is straighter. Man, I guess it's just not, but I'm going with it. We're going to go with it. We're going to get the tweezers. Looking for the tweezers. There we go. Now watch this. You're going to close your embossing powder and move this way away. Move your embossing powder way far away. Close the Versamark. Okay, because when I show you this heating up, you're going to be amazed now. Just going to do circular motions. Circular motions. Watch the powder just transform. I want to make sure that we're in focus so you can see that. Okay, so you can see, let me see, the difference between that sentiment and the ones I made earlier with Cajun Craze. I'm going to probably just go with the Cajun Craze, though. I just wanted to show you some heat embossing. I think I'm going to go with the Cajun Craze, but you could see, and I hope that's in focus. Maybe it's just my eyes, but it doesn't seem like in focus to me. But you can see how cool it looks when you emboss it, right? As opposed to like just using regular ink. We did embossing last time, so I just wanted to show you that. So let me go ahead and just because I don't like things when they're not, when they're crooked and everything. So I'm just going to go ahead but I did get to show you it, so that's good. And we're just going to go ahead and put our get rid of the MRSA mark. You can either use a baby wipe to wipe it off or just, you know, tap it off on here. I'm going to go ahead and tap. Yeah, I think my Harvest Blessing is okay. So we're going to go ahead and put the Harvest Blessing on there. Okay, hopefully that's a little wide enough piece that I have there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take this and we're going to just punch it out. So I just used Cajun Craze ink. And I'm going to go ahead and do it a couple more times because it's just to show you how quick it will be when you... I do have another strip there. So I'm just... And this is a little bit better when it's a little bit wider. I'll do one over there, and I'm going to do one over on this side. Okay. So watch this. So you have this little strip of 1-inch piece of Rustic Harvest Designer Series paper. And you're going to take it and you're going to put it in your punch like this. And you're going to put it like this on the middle of the punch. So what you're going to do is center it up and you're going to just punch it out. So that's how you get yourself a little tag, right? Like that. And it's easier with these longer strips. That's what I wanted to show you. And I did this in my Christmas in July series. You may have remembered it. Me doing this. Okay. And we'll go ahead and do this one. Now, if it's too short, well, this one's okay. But if it's too short, you put it on a sticky note and get it in there. And you can do it that way. So you are such a blessing. I'm just centering it because the longer the piece, the easier it is to center. Okay, there you go. So that's how to do that. And close the Cajun Craze. So you could also heat emboss it or do that. But we did the heat embossing last time. So I'm just going for it this time the way I did it earlier. Now we're going to put these there. And we're going to put dimensionals behind them. So let's see which ones are the best. I like that one. That one is perfectly, I think that one's centered perfectly here. Let's use that one. And voila, we're not really quite done the card yet because we have to add our little tendrils, our little bit of bling to our card, but then we're done. And we have all those cut out already, and I have some in my bucket of crafty goodness. And then at the end of this video, I show you cards I made in part 1 of this series. So you're going to get some, and I'll give you a sneak peek of what we're doing in part 3 of the series as well. So let me look at which one's better. I like this one a little better. So we're going to use this one here. Pop it up with dimensionals. I'm just using the end of my dimensional pack here. Okay, so we start taking these little stickers and these little bits. So the stickers are the ones that I cut in gold. So we're going to pull those off, peel the backs off, and just stick it right on there. See? Now these, since they're not really, and since it's 3D, these are not stickers. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on them and kind of let them hang off there. So I'm putting glue on the top part. This is enough glue for a few of these, by the way. That's enough glue for, well, this piece we'll put in the other side. I'm going to put this piece over here. This kind I'm going to put right there. See, so I'm going to let it hang off a little bit. And then these little pieces, I'm putting up near the sentiment, the other gold pieces. So I put one gold piece down on the pumpkin itself, and the other gold pieces, a couple of them up there. Love these little swirls for great little card embellishments. And if you have something this delicate, it's best to turn it into a sticker, I think, unless you want it to hang off like I did for those. Okay, that's good. And then I think I made some earlier, so let's see if I have some in here. Here, I made one like this, but it's okay. I don't really need them all. Oh, well, there was another top of a pumpkin. I did have top of a pumpkin after all. As long as I have one more of these little green ones. Here we go. I just wanted to show you one more of the little green ones to show you that I'm using like an odd number. Ooh, I love it. Put that over here. A little bit of glue. I could have used the glue from the other one because I put like too much glue on the other one. But we'll go for it. Now, it depends on how you're going to be packaging this and how you're sending it. But like, if you're just handing someone the card, you know, it's okay to have so much stuff hanging off. But if you're mailing it, you might want to put it in a little bag first, or maybe I'll put a little extra glue down there just because if I'm mailing it, I don't want it to pop all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue because I usually tend to mail my things, although not lately. My team is helping me mail things lately, which I'm so thankful for them. Okay, I'm just getting rid of any excess glue on there, so it'll dry. And the other one dried. Remember, we had a little blob of a little wet spot on there. So what I'm going to do for this one, just so you know, because I'm not going to go cutting out tendrils because of our time, right? But so like for this one, I'm going to put gold, 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 and gold up there. And for this one, I put the little. So I already put like a green one there. So I'll do like I did here. See, so if I have some little green tendrils and some gold, that's what we're going to do. So now we'll show you all 4 cards. Well, three are complete, and then one is like in the works. And I also just want to say hello. Thank you for reporting the spam, Lynn. Thanks, awesome. Okay, yeah, I don't know to fix that comment situation at some point. Hello, Robin. Hello, Kathy. Good. I'm glad you got your stamp set, Kathy. That was quick. Okay, let me move my camera a little bit. Thank you for your help, too. Oops, my camera's shaking. Hello, Denise. Hello, Gina. I saw your video in our team, Gina. That's awesome. I have to comment later. Thank you for helping with the spammers, Kathy. Hello, Diana, again. Hello, Nola. Hi, Janet. All right. Janet's also talking about her crafty goodness there. Thanks, Janet. Hello, Lynn. Yeah, so Kathy was talking about she likes that Versamark trick. And hello, Patty. She's like, I'm getting anxiety. I know I have a magnetic bowl, right? She's like, I'm getting, Patty's like, I'm getting anxiety because you're always losing your little metal dies. I know, but it's only dies. I do lose them a lot. I do, but I do find them eventually, 99% of the time. Hello, Maria. I'm glad, Patty, it's not blurry for you. In fact, what I'm reading right now is blurry, so it's definitely my eyes today. And I have my glasses on, but I can barely even read these comments. So hello, Sheila, which is why I don't read comments all through the videos. Some people decide to do that. Some creators, they read comments the whole time. I don't because I can barely see them and because I like to concentrate on the crafting. So in part 2 of the series, we created these cool cards. Thank you all for your comments, by the way. And I hope you now understand how to create the texture for your pumpkins using both Versamark ink, a little heat setting them a bit, and by using some ink around the edges for more dimension. Then you can add dimension with the puffing them up with dimensionals. You can also add dimension with these extra little tendrils. You can add dimension by embossing your sentiment if you want. Okay, I'm going to show you that one more time. We did this. I'm not going to use this one for this card, but you can see how when you emboss the sentiment, you get extra dimension on your card that way as well. Okay, so we made these 3 plus the one that I had made earlier. You can go ahead and try any of these card bases that will coordinate with the designer series paper, like Cajun Craze, like Mossy Meadow, right? Like Crushed Curry. This one's Crushed Curry. Or you can use Pumpkin Pie as a card base because there's a pumpkin pie. It just might be a lot of pumpkin pie if you use pumpkin pie as a card base because there's a lot of pumpkin in there. So let me show you what we did in part 1 of this series. We heat embossed the loveliest, wishing you the loveliest day. We heat embossed the sentiment for this card. We then die cut afterwards the banner using copper and the copper embossing powder. And then we used a piece of Mossy Meadow trim. And here's how I use the swirls. We also used blending brushes to color the paper last week as well. And we used Mossy Meadow trim on these, and we layered up the card. So I didn't write the measurements down for this one today because all we did was the same as last week with the 4 inches by 5 1/4 plus the 1 inch strip. So hopefully you got all those measurements. Then I showed you this card too, which is you can emboss your pumpkin with Cajun Craze embossing powder, and you can use black embossing powder up here. And then I may have shown you this already, but this is what it looks like when you use clear embossing powder right here, like that. It comes out really cool too. Okay, so one other thing we made last week using this embossing technique are diaper folds. So in part 1, we also created this project. So here's the project. We took the leaves, we embossed hello onto them. We also embossed these leaves with copper embossing powder. That's pretty much the color I'm going to be using mostly for the series because I think it just looks better. Black's okay too, but that's one, and we're going to use clear. We're going to use clear next time. So there you go. That's how we made these diaper folds, these whole little tea bags, and I also used that. I just made a lot of these with the Mossy Meadow trim. Okay, and then next week, I just want to give you a sneak peek. What we're doing next week is I'm going to teach you something called the embossed resist technique. And the idea is that we're going to be using clear embossing powder. This is actually not white, it's clear embossing powder. We're going to be embossing the leaves, and then we're going to be coloring afterwards. After we emboss and heat set our backgrounds, we're going to then be coloring the paper afterwards. And the idea of the resist technique is that the ink resists the parts that have been embossed. Well, it sticks to the parts that haven't been embossed. So that's what heat resisting is, resisting technique. So that's what we'll be doing. And we'll be making some things using that technique next time. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And thank you for coming. I see Charlotte's here too. Thank you, Patty. Patty, don't worry, I found all my dies. Putting them all back in the magnetic sheet. I used to put them on these sheets and draw around them, so I totally didn't miss it. Thank you, Diana. All right, that's all for now. This is the Paper Chef. Have a great day.